All right, and I can offer an official welcome. And this is our final presentation, Project Citizen in Focus. We're talking this evening about developing strong portfolios. And I'll be the presenter this evening. My name is Emily Voss. I am the Senior Manager of National Programs and Professional Learning at the Center for Civic Education. So thank you all for being here this evening and for joining us on our journey through Project Citizen. As always, if you have questions, please feel free to use the chat or just use the raise hand feature. That works just as well. So tonight, we have a few things that I'd like to make sure we cover. So we're going to walk through the anatomy of a portfolio. So what is it that we expect to see in all portfolios? We're going to talk about some best practices to really make a portfolio stand out. And then we're going to talk about the value of doing showcases and the benefit of the students actually presenting their portfolios. And then we'll conclude with information about submitting portfolios to a national showcase. Okay, so the portfolio, this is the culminating activity of Project Citizen. And this is the way that the students will demonstrate their understanding of everything they've learned through the process of Project Citizen. So they're going to demonstrate their critical thinking skills. They're going to demonstrate what they've learned about the democratic process. And they are going to, very importantly, provide a tangible record of their project. So this is also meant to serve as a potential springboard for the students to present their findings and their suggestions to stakeholders in the community, whether it's administrators, local government officials, or community members. All right, so the Project Citizen portfolio itself. Basically, what we're looking for here is little nuggets of everything we have talked about through the whole course of the Project Citizen process. We would like the students to be able to identify their problem. So what is it that they have chosen to do? What's the problem in the community that they wanted to focus on? They're going to demonstrate some of the research that they have done, which should include any existing public policies related to that particular issue. We want them to identify 3 alternative solutions to that problem, and then explain which of the 3 they are proposing to pursue and why. And then we want to see the action plan that the students have worked through. And we'd like also to see the students' reflection of what they've learned through the Project Citizen process. So we're going to kind of dive into all of these different things. And I think it's worth noting because perhaps you would be surprised, perhaps not. We do sometimes see showcases where some of these elements are either not present or not fully fleshed out. So it's useful to note all of these points.
Emily, can I ask you a question now? In the book, it says 2 to 3 alternative policies, but in the PowerPoint, it says 3. So I just want to clarify that for me, because I just finished a training today, actually, but it says 2 to 3. So if they have 2, that's good. But
that's okay.
Right? Okay, thanks.
Sure, thank you. All right, so we're going to talk about the 2 different styles of portfolio that you could put together. So the one you're looking at now, this is a physical portfolio board. But this does demonstrate how you would break down each section of a portfolio. So in section 1 would be the explanation of the problem. Section 2 would be the evaluation of alternative policies. Section 3 would be the student's proposed policy. And then section 4 would be their action plan. And then you see in the center of that little cartoon is a binder with documentation. And so we'll talk about that too, but this is the documentation binders where the students will be able to provide additional materials that do not fit on a board. Now, if your class is working all together on a single project, then we would recommend dividing the class into 4 different groups, with each group responsible for a different section. If your class is subdivided into very small groups, 3 or 4 or 5 kids, then the groups will be working on everything all together. So I just wanted to throw that out there as a possibility for the whole class projects. All right. And so here's and rather than a cartoon, you can see what one of these in real life looks like. So you have the problem on the far left, the alternatives, the student policy, and then the plan of action on the far right. Okay, so if the students are building physical portfolios, then what we're looking for here is a 4-panel display. And so some of these stipulations are put forth on the Center for Civic Education webpage. Let me say, if you intend to do one of these projects, but it's just for you, as in you have no intention of ever submitting this for a national showcase, you're just doing this for your kids, it doesn't matter what size it is, but I'm going to go over the rules and stipulations if you were going to submit to the national showcase. Okay, so in that case, the panels do have a size limitation, which is 32 by 40 inches for those panel sizes. The panels should be able to stand up on their own when placed up on a table. We highly recommend foam core because it's lightweight and it's stable, so it does stand up all by itself, and then it's easy to cover to create a nice background. We also don't recommend or allow 3D items. So the panels do need to be able to fold flat without anything sticking out the edges. And then the documentation materials should be put into a 3-ring binder. And ideally, that binder should have subsections that match each of the sections of the Project Citizen portfolio board. So in other words, the section dedicated to alternative policies is divided out. The section dedicated to their proposed policy is divided out, etc. So that's just going to make it easier for anyone who needs to review the students' Project Citizen boards. So once again, if you're doing this just for yourself and you want to make things different and you want to allow 3D things, please choose your own adventure.
And Emily, the binder should not be thicker than 2 inches.
Yes. So if you intend to submit for the national showcase, we do limit the binders to 2 inches. Thanks, Jackie.
I just trained today and all that, so.
Oh yeah, you're on it. Okay. So I'm also going to cover here some general recommendations for all portfolios, whether they are physical or electronic, and we'll get to the electronic momentarily. For any and all portfolios, visuals are great. Concise text is great. Graphs and charts are definitely helpful to make statistical information visually appealing. When we get to the action plan, if students are using visuals or diagrams or a timeline, that's very beneficial. Physical portfolios, frankly, as well as electronic ones, but this is specific to physical portfolios, they can include QR codes if the students would like there to be links to additional information or multimedia content that otherwise they would not have access to. So that's something I want to make quite clear. They can do that. And then they should, just as a general style rule, try to maintain a consistent color scheme and a similar font style. And this is just to make the presentations look a little bit more professional. So, once again, whether or not the students actually give presentations, we want these portfolios to basically get them up to that point. So these should be professional and clean looking, and they should be clear to any reader. What are the students, what is their problem? What is their suggested solution? What is the action plan? We all should be able to understand that just by looking at it, even if the students never verbally present it to us. Okay. So when it comes to electronic formats, there are so many options. So the center does not recommend any particular option. We don't have a requirement that you use a specific platform. So students could do anything that they're familiar and comfortable with. That could be Google Slides, that could be PowerPoint, or they could really start to step things up and use other platforms like LiveBinder, Canva, Miro, or they could create a web page. There's any number of free website makers out there. No matter what they choose, though, they do need to organize their content in the same manner that they would if they had a physical board. So we would like to see a table of contents or some other easy navigation link that would help viewers easily navigate the different sections. So I hope it's visible on the slide, but this main page for this portfolio on bullying, you can see here, they had a homepage explaining the problem, examining alternative policies, proposing a policy solution, action plan, and sources. So you can see here how they did that division. Rather than doing a binder, that's where the sources live in an electronic format. Students then with the electronic formats, they can much more easily utilize and embed multimedia elements. So they can embed video, they can embed audio clips. That's perfectly fine. What I would like to see is just the general reminder here that it's very easy to use images and videos, etc., from the wide world of the internet. The students need to make sure they're citing where they're getting their multimedia sources. So that's just a general good rule of research and presentation, that they should be able to cite their source for whatever clips they're using. And then it's also just useful to remind students to check for technical issues. So particularly when you're going to have outside reviewers look at the students' portfolios, you basically need to make sure that all the links work, that all of the formatting looks normal. If someone is looking at the portfolio on an iPad versus a laptop screen, these are just like little extra steps that are necessary when you're doing the electronic formats. But it just takes a couple extra seconds of effort on the student's part to make sure that the share settings are enabled and that it looks right on those different screens.
And Emily, just to clarify, because I know this is being recorded, I know per our conversation in an email, it used to be that all portfolios had to be digital. But now this year, they can be digital or hard copy. Is that correct?
Correct. Yes. So if you're, we'll cover the national showcase later on, but yes, you may submit either physical or digital portfolios to a national showcase. States might be a little bit different, but we'll cover that later on, I promise. Okay, so I do want to cover then the portfolio evaluation criteria. So what is it that reviewers are looking for when they are looking at a student portfolio? And this information is available in the student text. So this is not, privileged information by any stretch. But I think it's important for us to spend a little bit of time just looking at some of these subpoints, because once again, we do see portfolios from students that are missing some of these pieces. All right, so when we're looking at the concept of understanding the problem, the student's understanding of the problem, have the students stated and explained the problem, causes and evidence that there is in fact a problem. They're usually pretty good about that one. So demonstrating their issues. What we don't always see is demonstrating an understanding of an existing policy that might be somewhat problematic. And then also explaining any disagreements about the problem that may exist in the community. So there might not be a disagreement in the community, but maybe there is. And then an explanation of why government should be involved in the solution. This is another piece that we don't often clearly see. But why is this a public policy issue versus an issue that can be resolved through a civil society solution? That's really important for this, for the Project Citizen model. It's very, very important that we focus on that. When it comes to the category of analysis of alternative policies, then, as Jackie pointed out, 2 to 3 alternative policies to address the problem. The advantages and disadvantages of each policy presented. So, don't just tell us, oh, here are a couple of ways that you might resolve it. What are the pros and cons of each of those ways? And then what are some potential controversies or conflicts that need to be addressed for each of those alternatives? Also really important. All right, the third criteria, public policy development and persuasiveness. So this is where we find out, okay, you've told us that this is a public policy problem. Let us know which are the government entities involved in potentially enacting the students' proposed public policy. We'd like to obviously see good reasoning and good evidence here, and the advantages and disadvantages of their proposed policy. They get real excited about the advantages of their proposed policy, but we also want them to have thought about it from basically the 360 view. What are some potential disadvantages of the policy as well? Further, why is their proposed policy constitutional? This is another element that frankly gets missed a lot. This is important. Once again, it's a public policy based program. So why is their solution constitutional? And then the implementation of an action plan. Okay, so we talked about this quite a bit in our 4th section of our webinar series. We're looking for students to identify individuals and groups, both supporters and opponents, who need to be influenced, government officials who need to be influenced, and an outline and an analysis of an action plan for getting the policy enacted. Okay, and then does their proposed action build on and expand the evidence presented in their previous sections? This is also sometimes a link that gets missed. And I think this is an important one to just spend a minute on as well, because a lot of the action plans that we see sometimes are just kind of a list of, we'll reach out to this city councilman, we'll reach out to this state representative, and that's it. It just sort of stops there. So this is the part where we actually do want to see that the students have thought through the whole process. Okay, we're going to present to the city council. The city council meets on Thursdays, the first Thursday of the month. But if you want to get on the agenda, you need to have proposed your presence on the agenda by the previous week. So we need to make sure that we, submit our proposal to the city council by this date. We would like to reach out to our representative. If we don't get a response by 2 weeks after, we'll reach out again. Something like that, something that really shows that the students have thought through the process of the action plan. The 5th criteria that is in the student book, which I did not create a slide for, is the overall portfolio. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on that one, but it does allow us to look at the portfolio as a whole in that final criteria.
Emily, do we call that still reflection?
Yes, we're also, reflection is part of that as well.
Mhm.
So the category itself on the scoring
The
sheet,
new book, yeah.
yeah, it's called overall portfolio.
Mhm.
But it would include any of the reflections that the students have provided with regards to their experience with the project. Yep. Okay, so I would love for us to take a look at some examples. And I'm going to stop screen sharing really quickly. And we are a relatively small group. So I'm going to put in the chat some options for you all to take a look at. And I think we're going to spend a little bit of time with this, because what I'd love for you to do is look at this. These are all going to be electronic portfolios. So take a look at these portfolios, just choose one, and take a look at it from the perspective of a reviewer, but the reviewer that can provide feedback to students before they present it, right? So what advice might you give to these particular students to, tighten things up, or maybe add something in, something that you'd like to see? So basically provide some useful comments for this particular group of kids, based on the portfolio that you're taking a look at here. So I'm also going to pause the recording because this will be very boring for other people. The showcases are an opportunity for the students to present their portfolio to an audience. Now, who that audience is up to you. Whether you want the showcase to be for families, for the administrators at your school, or if you want the students to present in a more public forum as well. All of those are options. So the point here is that the student should have the opportunity to be able to advocate for their public policy and be able to explain why other people should get on board with their issues. So this is, I think, this is a part that not all teachers choose to do. A lot of teachers will choose to have the students create the portfolio, and that serves as the final product of the Project Citizen curriculum. This is the end product plus. So this does have a great benefit to the students, not only for public presentation skills, but also because being the active citizen does involve, advocating for an issue that you care about. So this is a really nice opportunity if you can make it work for you, for students to build those skills. All right, so
Emily, the way I see it when I was in the classroom, the way I see it, the students put so much work into putting together this piece of art, the board and everything. Why not, have them present? Not only the audience will benefit from listening, but most importantly, the students will benefit from sharing their findings and sharing their hard work. So that's always the way I saw it. Not always you have the opportunity to present before a legislative body or anything like that, but have a parents' night, invite the parents, invite the administration, invite the people that came and spoke on the topic, that were for or against the topic. And so that's the way I always see the oral hearing, what we call it.
I completely agree with you, and I love the idea of the students presenting their work, especially if, like, I'm thinking at the end of the school year, have like this night where they can do that. However, that's not something that they agree about. The anxiety level of, never mind in front of administrators and parents, but in front of just their small group, is very nerve-wracking for some of these kids. And I'm trying to encourage them very gracefully to step outside their comfort zone and try to do it, but
well,
I'm doing, yeah.
I certainly hear that. And I think that there might be some ways here momentarily that maybe we can kind of stair step the students into that. So one benefit of the showcase or leading up to a showcase is the opportunity for students to receive constructive feedback and to use it to refine their projects going forward. So this can be done as showcases, but we're also going to check out a video in a minute where there's other steps in between. But I do want to point out, Jackie did not know this was in my slide, but this is a celebration of civic engagement. Yay!
Yeah.
So yes, it absolutely is a great highlight for students. Okay, so we're going to, like I said, in just a second, we're going to take a look at a short video, but other showcases are going to allow students to work on presentation skills, to get feedback from reviewers in an informal capacity. It will allow them to encourage more reflection. So, we've talked throughout about the importance of that reflective piece, and they don't have to wait till the end to do the reflection. They can be reflecting as they go. So, what things did they learn when they did a mock presentation and realized, oh, well, we actually needed a lot more, information here, or we realized that we had completely forgotten this one element of the project. That's all useful reflective pieces as well. And then, of course, practice makes perfect, right? So, or at least practice makes you slightly less nervous. So allowing students the opportunity to practice and strive to articulate their ideas and address potential questions. Once they've done it in like the safer, softer environment, they can feel at least a little bit better about doing that in front of a group. Okay, so apologize to Elisa, who's already seen this video. One of the high schools that does Project Citizen has rebranded Project Citizen as Project Maverick. This is Freeman High School. They're the Freeman Mavericks. And so this is about a 5-minute video where they're going to talk about their projects, but I really like this because it's going to show you their process and how the students get feedback over multiple parts of the school year. So we'll take a look.
The next step will be to introduce this curriculum to the teachers.
I thought it went really well. The group worked really great together, and we just tried doing it to help better the community around us. Someone from the Harvard Honor Council, and they go ahead.
I like that everyone kind of got to choose what they wanted to do. So it's interesting to see what were the things that people saw were problems in it.
Our group identified homelessness as a problem.
I like having to find a problem within the school and having to try and find ways to fix it.
What to do is to change that. So Project Maverick is a cross-curricular year-long project that every one of our seniors took part in. And it's designed to showcase the skills that we think are important at Freeman High School. Critical thinking, working as a group, communication, problem solving.
It's a great space in our school that we think we should use more often.
I love it. You want to?
It is a project where seniors in groups get to choose a problem about which they are passionate, and they work together to contact local officials, could be from the school level all the way up to the state general assembly, and they look to find solutions and try to get their solutions actually implemented.
We also did lobbying to help pass the bill.
My project was about abolishing the cash bail system in Virginia. My group did homelessness in the metropolitan areas of Virginia. We did mental health because as a result of COVID.
Our topic was related to the college application process. So it was something that, we knew about, we were experiencing.
That would say here's some upcoming scholarships and here's dates for each one or.
It was interesting to see how our group worked together to solve a problem that wasn't typically something we look into, but our school needed it, so it was good.
There's a lot of student choice and student voice in this, and the students were leading their own learning, but they were doing so with experts pulling alongside them, our teachers.
Just thinking about this project, we want to make it as narrow and specific as possible.
Like you said, it's a big thing, so you can't catch everything.
The real problem is a lot of people aren't asking for help.
What could you do to
make people more comfortable. It was our teachers that came to us and said, we want to try something new.
We helped them form their groups. We looked at their ideas for their problem. But we also did a midterm panel presentation where we brought in other people, other county specialists, and we asked them to hear basically a pitch from the students about what their problem was and why they felt it was an actual problem to be solved.
We know there's a problem, not just at this school, but in all schools.
Or like visual aids for the cars, like either adding lights or like brighter signs.
That's a great idea. Does anyone else have other stuff?
Can't get them to care about it. They're not gonna, when they, even if they come up paid just for volunteer hours, they're not gonna.
One of the things I would want y'all to argue or articulate is that the issue is awareness. Think about Project Maverick, if this was every single senior, and so therefore every student at Freeman is going to participate in it. And so it's really important to us that all students have a chance to experience this type of learning. And what we found is the students who excelled weren't always just your honors level, AP level students. It was the students that were really passionate about what they were learning. So a new type of engagement comes out of students of all levels when they're passionate about what they're learning.
Between classes, what problems are associated?
It is truly civics in action because we have students who are interacting with the government and trying to improve things for everybody, not just for themselves.
I'm actually really interested in this.
Haven't gotten a response.
They researched solutions and proposed a solution to solve an issue in their community. They presented those to a wide audience, including their classmates, teachers, the rest of the school, and important community members who came in as guest judges to participate in the Project Maverick Showcase.
What would be your proof that this course is helping? I like it.
The judges really liked our project. We did stuff on AP classes and getting the numbers up. It kind of introduced me to how to reach out to officials and kind of get advice and information from them to implement within the school.
I'd like to change that. And
I liked how my project ended up, and I thought a lot of people around the school's presentations were also very high quality.
Did you get any take?
Yeah. It was a cool project because you were able to work with your team members and teammates, and you were just able to communicate with one another, and it was just amazing.
find big problems we see with how American Math Education works.
And then from the center we got mid, and then horizontal connect.
I enjoyed it. I like the concept of trying to better the community.
The skills that are going to make these students successful, no matter what field they enter, are the very skills that we honed and perfected in Project Maverick and that we showcase to our community. So our community knows this is what is the purpose of high school. This is what the purpose of school is, to become world-class learners, leaders, thinkers, not just to memorize something for a test and show it back to us at the end.
Outstanding. Thank you so much.
So I really wanted to use that video.
The next step will be.
Sorry, I'll skip. So I really wanted to use that video because I love how they structure the Project Citizen course. So, recognizing that not everybody has the benefit of necessarily doing this for an entire academic year, I do like how they have the communication with stakeholders, which led to that midterm elevator pitch, because that to me seems like a terrific, bite-sized way that the students learn how to talk about their project in a way that's concise and it's starting to appeal to people, but at that point they're getting feedback from people who are not their teachers, but just feedback from the community to say okay, great, give me more information about this, give me more information about this. So they're getting more feedback as they're building their presentation over the course of that year. And then, of course, you saw they had the consultations with teachers and admins, classroom presentations, which ultimately led to that big showcase event that you saw where they kind of took over the library and the gym in the hallway. So I think, I hope anyway, that this feels a little bit more approachable to you, that it feels like something you can break down into manageable pieces before you get to the point of doing a showcase where the students are like, oh my gosh, I have to talk to members of the community. Well, hopefully by the time they talk to the members of the community, they've practiced a few times before that. So wanted to share that with you first. All right. And if you do host a showcase, we would highly recommend that you host an orientation session, whether it's a virtual event or whether it's just something that you ask folks to come in about an hour or 2 hours ahead of time so that you can familiarize your reviewers with the objectives of Project Citizen. You would go through the guidelines and the scoring rubric and let folks know how they're going to assess each of the sections. You might want to walk through a sample portfolio, whether it's a physical one. If you're doing this in person, I would recommend a physical one, but a digital one is also possible if you have digital portfolios. And then offer portfolios of different levels of quality, just so folks can start to see a difference. I think that can be really helpful if you have time. And then as we did today, also discussing and analyzing the samples to kind of set a shared understanding of expectations. And Kathleen has reminded us in the chat, yes, Kathleen, thank you so much. This is very important. To be kind. The students have worked really hard on their presentations. So we would love for the judges and reviewers to provide critiques, but also to recognize the hard work of the students and to be encouraging, because we definitely want them to have this be the launch pad of their engagement in future civic endeavors. And yes, lastly, there was just a piece here on reminding judges to be objective, because some students might choose topics that, as we discussed in webinar 3, that might be something that the judge individually disagrees with, but that should have no bearing whatsoever on their ability to objectively look at the student's project and whether or not they have done a good job of assessing the different public policy options moving forward.
Emily, something that we do in Miami-Dade County, because we have such a large competition, I try to mimic the state, the timing and so forth, but with so many teams, we couldn't do that. Then we went to a face-to-face showcase where the students will come, stand in front of their boards, answer questions for the judges, and then the judges will score it. But now the way we do it is they send their boards, we meet with the judges. But one thing that really helps is we put a deadline to please share with us their topics. So what we do is actually, I believe Senator Garcia shared with you, his office gets the judges for me, in the sense that I send a list of all the topics, and they have the connections with the different offices. So if I have three portfolios on I don't know, rescuing dogs or anything with that, which is a usual topic for middle schoolers, then he will reach out to that office to send somebody. Actually, the director has come for the past couple of years and he loves it. He's like, this is the best part of my job, or anything related to permits or flooding or anything like that. He gets the judges from those particular offices. So when they come, they're knowledgeable on the topic and they can also provide feedback. So I always ask my judges, because we do a training for 45 minutes before the judging starts. I always ask them to put at least 2 positive comments, because the teachers get that feedback back before they go to state, and I want them to know, what is it that they did beautifully, or that did perfect, or that did very well, and then an area to improve. So that's what we do here in Miami-Dade.
That's great. Thank you for sharing that. I think that's fantastic. And you have such a great wealth of resources there to be able to draw from. But I think that's a nice option if that's possible, that if you have many, many projects that potentially judges might be reviewing, to allow them to see the list of different subject matter. Yeah, that's terrific. So if you have a smaller group, then obviously it's much easier, I guess. The judges will probably be seeing multiple panels that your students have their portfolios there on display. One thing that we've done for the national showcase, which we'll talk about in just a second, if it's electronic portfolios, we'll sometimes give about a week ahead of time that the judges will have access to those student portfolios, and then we'll say, okay, we need to get your reviews by this particular date, so that we can announce the winners at that point, or announce their awards at the end point. Okay, and speaking of the National Showcase, so we've chatted about this a little bit before. Not all of our states have well-developed Project Citizen state showcases. Some of them do. So let's pretend you are in a state that does have a state showcase. So your state coordinator would host one of these events, and for each of your schools at your state that is participating in Project Citizen, they would submit a project to a state showcase. And then the state showcase would select one portfolio from the high school level, one portfolio from the upper elementary middle school level that roughly aligns with the level 1 and level 2 textbooks. Not every state has this. So if a state does not have a state showcase, then we would still ask that you be in touch with your state coordinator just to let them know that you're interested in submitting a portfolio to the national level. If you are the only school in your state that's participating, you can probably just submit, but your state coordinator should at least be kept in the loop that you want to submit a project to the National Showcase. So the state coordinator has a form that he or she will fill out that allows us to get the links if it's a digital portfolio, or they will let us know that you will be mailing a physical portfolio to the Center for Civic Education office in California. And so you see here on the screen, we have some deadlines set up for that. So physical boards, we have to have them by the end of June. Digital portfolios are a couple weeks later. And that will give us enough time to review everything before we announce the awards at the end of July. So it's a bit of a squishier process, but I would definitely recommend first to be in touch with your state coordinator. And if you still have questions or concerns after that point, you can certainly be in touch with us as well. I'm happy to answer questions. Elisa and Anna, who are on the call, they're happy to answer questions too, because we love to see the student projects coming in. We do, however, have to make sure that we don't get flooded with 46 entries from one state and like 2 entries from a different state. So that's why we need you to be in touch with your state coordinator first. All right, and with that, I am happy to answer any final questions that anyone has, either about the portfolios or the showcases or anything else pertaining to Project Citizen. And Teresa, yes, I will email you the link to Project Maverick. You can also just Google search Project Maverick YouTube, and that should be the only, if not the first thing that comes up. And I'm told that they are going to be filming a new version, since the kids were all masked for the most part in the video. They wanted to do a new version with no masks, so they're going to do one this year.
I just checked and there's a 2022 version. So I don't know if that's without a mask or not. So.
That's that version. So that, yeah, that
okay.
was previous.
Okay. The one we just watched was that one. Okay. Then that's the one I wanted. Thank you.
You're welcome. Other questions? Thank you, Kathleen, and thank you for joining us. We really appreciate your attendance at all these events. All right. Well, Teresa, do you have anything else that you wanted to ask? You've been a champion question asker.
So we meet one more time, and that's this coming spring, right? Okay.
We we'll basically, we'll do it like an office hour. So it won't be necessarily an organized presentation, but we'll have time for you to be able to log in and ask us any questions that you might still have lingering.
Okay. Well, I have to say that this has been very informative, these sessions. I don't feel like such a novice anymore. We just finished our first trimester in school, and that pretty much has finished our first project or first series of projects with all the groups that I have. And it's been a learning curve for all of us. So I'm just glad that I've had this information. Everything that I learn, I pretty much tell my kids the next day. So yeah, I'm collecting all this stuff so I can show them tomorrow.
Perfect. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your questions, because it's been really, really useful for us as well to kind of go on your journey with you, since you're working with us at pretty much the same timeline. So thank you.
Well, if I don't ask, I don't know. So I don't learn, right?
Perfect. All right. Well, with that, then I will go ahead and wrap us up for Project Citizen in Focus for this fall. So thank you, everybody, and we look forward to seeing you in future webinars. All right. Bye.
Yay.